Hello and welcome, everyone. How's everybody today? I am really excited about our live video today. This is Patty Bennett, and I am just so happy that you've joined me today. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I love to color. Oh, sorry, hang on one second. There we go. Sorry, it was asking me if I wanted to cast it to my TV. No, I don't want to watch myself on my TV. Anyway, hey, I love to color with Stampin' Blends. Look at these pretty colors I had out that I was coloring the new Simply Succulent image with last night. So we're going to look at that today. We're going to look at so many things, so many different colors, and so many amazing colored images, and I have lots and lots of tips for you today. So hey, Jennifer, Robin, Charlene, Janelle, Jennifer, Linda, Allison. Oh my goodness, everybody is just saying hi. How are you? It's so good to see you. So if you are seeing the little red live button up there, then you've caught me live on YouTube, but you also might be watching a replay either on my blog or YouTube, and that is fine. Did I say live on YouTube? I meant Facebook if I said that. Anyway, I'm live on Facebook right now. So thanks for joining me. We have so much to cover. I am going to give you tips for Stampin' Blends, coloring large images, small images, shading, contrast, swatching colors, blending different colors. I have tons of tips for you. This is something that I absolutely love. I just love to color with Stampin' Blends, and it's my most requested thing. So when people ask for tips or ask questions, they always are asking me, how do you blend? How do you shade? How do you color with Stampin' Blends? So I thought, well, let's just color today. Let's just have some fun. It's really relaxing for me, and just puts me in a happy place, and I needed that today. So I hope that you will enjoy. So you might have noticed here, Simply Succulents. This is brand new. And for those of you that know me well, you might be thinking, succulents? She doesn't normally do succulents. Why is she doing succulents? Yeah, I know nothing about succulents because, as you know, like the roses and the alstroemeria and the geraniums and all, those are my kind of plants in my garden. That's what I have dozens of. I have 0 succulents. But last night I went on to Pinterest and I just typed in succulents, and by goodness, would you believe that all of these colors and more are found in succulents? I had no clue. I was going to pull out like 2 colors of green and call it good. Nope. All of these colors are in succulents. So that's why I started coloring with all of these colors, and I just started having fun with this brand new stamp. So we're going to talk about that amongst lots of other things. I wanted to show you, in case you're thinking, wait, where is that set? It's in the new mini catalog, which I received because I participated in a Stampin' Up! Online event last weekend, and I was able to place a pre-order. They call it product purchase premier, and I received my celebration catalog and my mini catalog. These are January to June 2021 and January, February 2021. So if you're one of my customers, my regular customers, I will be sending you a catalog. If you need a demonstrator, then I would be happy to help you. I am a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I have been one for over 25 years. So if you are in need of help with catalogs, ordering, tips, whatever you need, forgot to write it on here. I usually always write it. So my blog is at pattystamps.com. So you can find me there anytime. I blog almost every day of the year, and I either have a tip or some kind of advice or video or a reminder or something for you there. So check there, And I have a link to request catalogs if you need them, if you're not one of my regular customers. I wanted to show you in our current annual catalog. This is the one that goes through May, I believe. Let me just make sure because they changed things. Yeah, through May 3rd. Oh, May 3rd, not the end of May, through May 3rd of 2021. So in this catalog, which is current right now, Stampin' Up! Did not post a page that just features Stampin' Blends. Now, I was a little bit sad about that because I think myself included and my customers and fellow demonstrators were used to seeing a page of Stampin' Blends. So here's what I put in the catalogs that I mail to my customers is a little reminder that our Stampin' Blends combo packs are actually found on these 2 pages. So like, let's just say you're looking at Calypso Coral and you're thinking, I would like Stampin' Blends in that color. So here's the line right here, Stampin' Blends combo pack. So that would be the ordering code. Our Stampin' Blends now come in a 2-pack. So you would get the light and the dark. Let's just look here. So this, since we're talking about Calypso Coral, so this would be the light and the dark 2-pack of Stampin' Blends. So that's how they come now. And they are on these 2 pages. You just have to look at that last section under each color family to see if we have Stampin' Blends. So if there's a little dash, it means we don't have it. So for instance, Pear Pizzazz, there is not a Stampin' Blend for that color. So just in case you're wondering and you're thinking, well, I'm missing that page. That's why that's what they did. Wouldn't have been my preference, but that's what they did. So let's get down to some coloring and some tips. So my first tip for you is what I call swatching colors. I think this is the right name. I'm not positive. I think so. But what it means is when you are ready to color and you've got your image and you're thinking, what colors should I use? What should I do? What's going to look good? So you can see here that I've done several different colors, but it's because like I said at the beginning, I looked up on Pinterest last night and I just searched the word succulents. And I found all of these colors to be in succulents. I had no clue. I just thought they were all green because I don't do succulents. They aren't in my garden. So when I found all these colors, I just started pulling out all of my Stampin' Blends and swatched. I think this is the right word. I just opened it up, the broad tip, and I colored a swatch of the light and the dark. You can see I've got Heather, Posy, Razzleberry for the pinky purples. Seaside Spray actually kind of goes into this purplish blue color. And then I have 3 blues, Bermuda Bay, Pool Party, and Balmy Blue. And then 3 different greens, sea foam, soft sea foam, macaron, and jade. And I felt that all of these colors worked. So that's kind of my first step, is that I like to swatch the colors first, put them in a little tray, keep them handy, and then work with those. I just saw a question go by about if you are on a limited budget, and I get this this question a lot. What colors do you start with? So here's what I would suggest. If you know what you want to color, let's say you know that you want to color roses. Okay, so what color are roses? Like the pinks and the reds and the corals and the yellows and a green. So I would go with that. If you want to color succulents, go with some of these colors. If you are doing Christmas projects, pick a red and a green and go with that. So it really depends on what you are coloring. That would be my answer to that. And also, of course, your favorite colors. If you don't like purple, don't buy purple. If you don't like orange, don't buy orange, right? Buy what you like. So that's what I would suggest starting with. So anyway, our first tip then is swatching your colors. And that's what I mean by that. I do have another example. I was working on this image, just playing with all different tones. And so that would be these colors. That's what I worked with. And I needed them all swatched out so that I knew what I was going to pick and what I was going to color. So that's just an example. Here's another one. We'll get to this project in a bit, but these, I call these Patty colors because I love anything from the yellows into the oranges and sort of the orangey pinks. Poppy Parade, that's totally my color. And then I love like any green is fine, but this is just another example. So that's what I would have done to get going with coloring on a project that we're going to look at soon. So I wanted to just show you a quick example and point out that when I'm coloring with my Stampin' Blends, to my eye, and this is subjective, like this, okay, so I just saw Louise's question about shading, so that's what I'm going to talk about. To my eye, do you see how I've got two shades of the macaron right here, the light and the dark? And the contrast between this light petal, let me use a pointer, the contrast between these light petals and then the dark that I colored around it, just as an example, is what draws my eye in and makes this look more lifelike than just coloring with one color. So I'm going to show you really easily how to do that. You can see it here as well with the Just Jade. The whole thing is light, but then I've got these spots of dark where that petal would tuck behind. Same thing right here with the Posy and the Heather. You've got the lighter petals and then you've got darkness around the petals that are on top. So this would go for really anything. Anything that you're coloring is to make sure that you're using both your light and your dark. There is nothing wrong with simply coloring with just a light marker. So let's just say we want to start with the soft seafoam. Okay, before I start coloring, let me tell you something. When I first started using these a couple of years ago when they came out, I literally colored one petal at a time. One or two, like that much. Then I would go to the dark, and then I would go back to the light, and then I would go to the dark, and I would blend. Okay, now I just color the whole thing, and then I go back in with my dark. You can do it absolutely however you would like. That is sort of the beauty of using these markers. It is up to you how you want to do it. So look at the difference between just one color, which nothing wrong with one color, but there's one color. Here's adding about 4 more colors and blending in those colors. So I would want to do this, and I'm going to make little darker marks where the petal is overlapping. It is that simple. So anywhere where you can see that one petal is going over the other one, you want to start with your next darkest color and add some color. As these blend together, they kind of start to fade. So you can see a little bit of shading, but then here's what you want to do. You want to look at your little chart here and say, well, I use soft seafoam, that's the lightest. Maybe if I grab macaron, so here, oh, that's jade, hang on. Dark macaron, let me find, here's light. Light macaron as my next darkest. Okay, you're going to start seeing that those colors are giving you that contrast. Do not be afraid to grab more than one green, more than one yellow, more than one red, more than one orange, more than one purple, whatever it is. That's how you start building and getting darker colors. If you just stick with the light and the dark of one shade, of one color, excuse me, then you are not going to build that contrast. So now I've moved to Jade. And can you see already? I hope you can see this. I'm watching on the iPad, and I think you can see. Oh, so Joni, and sorry, I was just reading comments. Joni was asking that hers is blurring into the black ink. So are you making sure, well, number one, you're using Memento black ink? You have to use this. And I am also using the Thick Whisper White, which Stampin' Up! Actually recommends. And I prefer it as well. You don't have to, but I really love the thick. It gives the markers a little extra paper to kind of sink into, shall we say. Does that make sense? So let's see. Can you see then the difference of when we started of just coloring it all with the soft seafoam, and then now I've added, what did I add? Just Jade and the macaron to the soft seafoam. So I've used all of these shades to get these extra colors. Can you see just that little bit of shading, what a difference that makes? Isn't that amazing? And that's not difficult, right? All I did was envision, where does one petal tuck? You know, like where does one go under the other? And that's where I put my darker. That's all I did. So not difficult. Now, this was kind of a test, and I actually kind of like how it turned out, but I did, on Pinterest, I did see that there are some that are green with the purple on the tips. And so for that, I just grabbed all my purple shades, which were Posy, Heather, and Razzleberry, all of those. And I started with the lightest one because I was a little nervous. And I just started doing it on the tips. I'm actually going to, let's try dark purple Posy first. And so I just started doing this. I know that's not the absolute lightest one, but it's okay. Because now that I know that it works, I'm okay with trying it. And I just started putting some purple Posy. Then let's do Heather. I'm going to be brave and go with Heather. And I'm using the bullet tip here because it's just a little teeny bit of color on here. I'm not putting a lot. Okay, so that was Heather. And then let's be really brave and do the Razzleberry. Just a little bit. Can you see that? Just a little bit. You don't want to go overboard. You can always add more color. You cannot take it off. Well, you can lighten it a little bit by using the color lifter. And I'll grab that in a second and show you. And then I'm just going to blend with the light. A little tiny bit. Just a little. And then I went back with my lightest seafoam and I pulled the green up toward that purple. And as this dries, that's just going to blend. So that's how I did the purple and the green together. Yeah, the color lifter. So let me grab that. Sorry, I don't want to knock over the camera. Just have to reach around. I don't use this much, but you can do this. There's no color in this at all. And if you wanted to just sort of dab it on here, it takes a minute, but it will lighten the color. And so it would sort of lighten between the green and the purple there. But I rarely use this, but it is an option. So let me glance back here, see if I missed comments. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad that you like it. No, it does not bleed if you're using the Memento ink. So I think we got onto that. Let's see. Yes, the palette in front of me is absolutely imperative for me because I can look at all of these and just think, oh my gosh, which one do I use next? And the cap may not 100% be what I think it's going to turn out to be. So by swatching it, super important. Okay, so yes, the alcohol inks bleed through to the back, if that's what you're asking. And that's why it's important to have a grid paper or something to protect your surface. So yes, good question. I store my blends. Hang on, I'll show you. This is what I showed in the beginning. So this is my holder from Stampin' Storage. It's a wood holder, and it has the opening for 2, so the light and the dark of each color. Now, since we have more blends, I actually have 2 of these side by side. This picture was from last year, but that's how I store them, flat. I asked Stampin' Up! If it's okay to store them this way, but they said it's recommended to store them this way. So that's why I store them flat. Oh, good. Connie says, yes, they do have some purple tips. Thank you. Yes, horizontal. And let me see. I'm just scrolling back for comments. Okay, I think that's it. I think I saw them all. If you have comments and I didn't get to them, I am going to go through another couple of tips, and then I'm going to check with you for more comments. So hang on to your questions, and we'll go over those in a minute. So let me grab some other samples. All right. Probably, I think the most important thing that you can do is contrast with lights and darks, which we just talked about, and leaving some white spots if that is appropriate. So let me show you examples of what I am talking about. So do you see here on this one that we have lots of lights and darks? So I've got like 4 shades of the yellow, the daffodil and the mango. I've got the petal and the calypso in this one, and the flamingo. Maybe I didn't use the flamingo on this one. I might have used a touch of it on here. And then I've got the purples, I've got the blues. So do you see how I have lots of lights and dark spots? And I also have spots that I have left white. It is so hard for me to leave white spots. But I learned this from my dad. My dad is an amazing watercolor artist. And in watercoloring, you have to leave paper showing if you want white. True watercolor artists do not use white paint. So that's how I learned that leaving white spots is important. So I love that contrast. You see how putting the dark next to the light just really makes it pop. So same with this. I've left light out at the tips, and I've put my darker colors down in where the petals would be going in. Same idea. Same here. Lights and darks. That is what is so important. Anyway, to my eye. It is to my eye. You can do whatever you would like, but that's how my eye sees it. I like the lights and the darks. And like we talked about in the succulents, if say you're using Calypso, for instance, and you're not getting enough of a contrast, then pull in Poppy to make one more darker shade, or Flamingo Light and Dark and Light Poppy. That would be your third color. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I hope it's making sense, but let me just show you. So for instance, here's our flamingo. So if we were coloring with light flamingo, and then we wanted to do something darker, but maybe that wasn't dark enough for what we wanted to do, then you could grab your Light Poppy Parade and you could give it one more shade of darkness. Then you could go back to your light flamingo and blend those in. So that's what I'm talking about, that if your two colors, your two pack, your combo pack doesn't give you what you need, you can go in with a darker color and you can keep adding until it's as dark as you want it. So that's what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to color with other colors. Hope that makes sense. So that's what I've done in all of these samples. That's my example of lights and darks and leaving white spots. I hope that is making sense. So any questions on these? Anything you would like a little clarification on? While you're typing, I will say on this one, I purposefully tried to make it just a little bit simpler. It's really almost just your lights and your darks and not a lot of other shading, and just, like color the whole thing with the light and just add little spots of dark. And I wanted to keep this one simpler. This one you can see it's the same image, but I've got several shades on each one just to play around with color. So that's a little option there as well. You don't have to add lots and lots of color. Here is another example of the light and the dark contrast. You can see where I've left light here in the middle of this cake stand, put darker here where it would be dark, and darker spots. This would have been Seaside Spray and Misty Moonlight, and I think Night of Navy for the very darkest spots. So just another example. Okay, I hope that helps. So let's look at just a couple more. And here we have that example of just putting some darker spots and leaving the lighter areas. Here, this was a couple years ago. We had this frog in, I think it was Celebration. And I was just not getting the darkness that I wanted. So I took the marker, the Stampin' Blends, the fine tip, and I made dots. And I just stippled. And at first, they started like sinking into the color because it was still a little bit damp. But then as it dried, I added more spots and they stayed as spots. They didn't blend or bleed in. Here is an example of leaving your lighter color so that the image actually looks rounded. If you color that with one color, then it's going to look very flat. Could I please post the background one with the colors I used? I think you might be talking about this one. This one is retired, but it is on my blog. I will try to find it. And I don't even remember what it's called. I will try to find this and link this in my post. But if you search Stampin' Blends on my blog, you might find it before I can get to it. Oh, Kathleen is saying, do you always use the dark and the light of one set and then go to the lightest of the next color? Or, hang on, or did you use all the lights? Okay, so I go light, I go the next darkest, and then I blend with the light. So I keep going dark until I get the darkest that I need, and then I blend with the light. But there's a million ways to do this. There's no right or wrong. So that's just, saying how I do it is how I do it. Here's a tip on an image that maybe you kind of want it to be white, but you need a little bit of color. Just put a little bit of color around the edge. And then remember this color lifter that we were talking about. I almost used it like a blender pen, where I took the fat or the broad tip and I just sort of went over, just like 2 or 3 times over the color, and it softened it so that it gives this some depth, some roundness, but it wasn't just like this line around the edge. Another example of the dark and the light, making sure that you leave some lighter areas, kind of thinking of the sun coming from over here. And so then you want your darker color here. The sun would be hitting her back, which would be a little lighter. So just, you know, different ways to think about shading. Under here, I've got her legs just a little bit darker where they would be shadowed from her skirt. It just makes things be a little more lifelike. So lots of examples there of contrast lights and darks and leaving light spots. So any more questions on this topic here? I'm just, how do you color black things? We have black blends. Let me, hang on, I'm reaching around the camera, doing my best not to bump it. So we do have light and dark smoky slate, and we also have light and dark black. So those would be the colors I use for black. Speaking of that, let me pull out. This was going to be our next thing, so I'll just pull it out now. So here I have used those four, the smoky slate and the black, to do the raccoon and the penguin. Now I could have gone darker because penguins usually are darker, more of a black, but I didn't want two super dark images on this card. So let's just jump into the next one. So this one I was going to show you shading small images. I'm going to do a little demo here with this for you. Let's see. Yeah, so Chelsea, I hope that helps about the black images. That's what I would have used right there on the black. But what I wanted to show you is that when you're working with a very small area, if you go over and over and over the color, like we did with the succulents, then you are going to get bleeding. So you have to be very strategic. I think let's use the shaded spruce on the tree. I want to show you how I did these trees. So if I did like light, dark, and blend again with light and add a little more dark in these little areas, it's going to bleed. So for a smaller area, I just start with the dark. So I'm going to color dark where this part of the tree was going to be underneath. You've got this like snowfall hanging over the edge. Okay, so I've got my dark. And then I'm just going to go in with my light, and I'm just going to kind of blend that edge of where I colored the dark. And as this blends into the paper, you're going to see that line between the light and the dark start to kind of soften. And you're going to see that it does look like a shadow. Can you see that? That it actually does look like that snow is overhanging over the greenery of the tree. So a smaller image, like all of these, I am not going to go back and forth, dark, light, adding another color, because they're too little. It's going to bleed outside of the outline. Let's see, what color did I put on the bunny before I used the color lifter? So I think that was this one. This was probably crumb cake, I'm thinking. I'm pretty sure that's what I used on that one. Oh, thank you, Michelle. She says, awesome tips. She's going to watch it again. Lynn says, love your tips. Thank you so much. So just all of these images would have just been like the Real Red dark and light, the Misty Moonlight dark and light, the Seaside Spray dark and light, and that's it. I didn't go back and add because it will just bleed too much outside the lines. So that is your tip for shading small images. Any questions about that, about shading your smaller images? Oh, good, Susan. Susan is saying it's helpful. Thank you. I am glad. I've got this pile back here, and I'm afraid it's going to be an avalanche. Let's see. How do I stay inside the lines, especially when I color so fast? If you need a little more control, I would suggest using the bullet tip. To me, that gives you a little more control than the larger one. But also, I think maybe it's just practice, and I'm just like sort of not afraid of it. Like I just go for it. This is honestly, this is like my therapy. I absolutely love coloring, and so I'm just not afraid to go for it. Like just do it. But if you do go outside the line, you can use this, and you can, let's see if they have a little spot where I went outside. Like, okay, there's a tiny spot here. You can probably hardly see it, but you can use the color lifter, and you can kind of push the color back in, or you can go back and forth. You don't want to overwork it because it will just like wreck the paper eventually. But I can already see, it's probably almost impossible to see on camera, but I can already see that it pushed that color back in. So you can always use your color lifter for that if you would like to try to get something that went outside the lines back inside. Oh, good, Lillian. I'm glad that tip helped you with the smaller images. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you so much. So now we're going to talk about larger images. I colored one of these with the petal pink. Let me get that. Did I put that swatch up here? I did. Since these are the colors that I almost use like the most, I should just keep this one handy. I make a new one every time I do a project. It's silly. I just need to keep that one handy because these are my favorites. So I would have used the petal pink and the light daffodil on this. So if you just, let me block these out. If you just did petal pink, then you wouldn't have these warmer yellow tones. So by adding a little bit of the yellow, I warmed that up into like almost an orange or a salmon-y color. And then on this one, I know this is not the color of a magnolia, or at least not to my knowledge. Okay, maybe somewhere, but my magnolias are not this color. But you know what? It's my art, and I can color it how I want, right? It's art. So I did petal, pink, calypso coral, flamingo, and I might have even used a tiny touch, I think I did, of light poppy parade. I just used them all because I like it. And adding the yellow in here, I want to show you a tip. Can you see that after I did all the green on these leaves, I've got yellow around the tips? Because in real life, lots of green petals have a little bit of yellow either at the tip or somewhere on the leaf. And what this does is it pulls this color back in to coordinate with the leaf. Here, I did not add yellow. And do you see the difference? It's a little bit blah. It's a little bit flat looking. Even though there's shading, it's a little bit flat. I don't know, at least to my eye. Okay, so do you see the difference? Do you see what that yellow did? How it just popped those leaves. So let's just do, I think we have time. Oh my gosh, we've been going for 40 minutes already. My goodness. Do you want to see this colored? Do you want to do a little coloring, or do you want me to move on with the rest of the tips? I don't want to take up everybody's day if you're not interested. Hi, Kay. My goodness, good to see you. It's been a long time. Oh, that's so fun to see your name pop by. Okay, Teresa says yes. We'll just color a little bit. Okay, so on a larger image, you may not want to color the whole thing with the light. So on a large image like this, I would do maybe 1/3 to 1/2. Let's do about half. Okay, so I'm just scribbling in the color. You want to get some saturation. So that was light petal pink. And then with dark petal pink, I am just going to use the guidance here of where the Stampin' Up! Artist has some darker color. And you can almost not even see that difference, right? Almost. You can see a little bit, right? You can see that darkened a tiny bit. But then I would go to, well, do I want to be brave? I think I'm going to put in flamingo. Let's see how that looks. So then I would go to light flamingo. Oh, that's beautiful. And add color where the Stampin' Up! Artist has the darker color. Look at that. Look already. Look at the difference of just doing the petal pink and then adding the flamingo. So there we go. And you would look at that and think, oh, I don't think so, right? But then look what it does. It's beautiful, right? Hey, Natalie, I see you. So then let's take the dark flamingo and add a little bit, just some touches. Look what that did. Like, how amazing is that? I think that's beautiful. Now, if I want to blend, I'm going to, I see Pat Bennett is watching. Like, we have the same name, even though I go by Patty. That's like amazing. Anyway, I'm going to go back to the light petal pink, and I'm going to start in my dark area, and I'm just going to swirl that color to blend a bit. That's it. Don't touch it anymore. Leave it. That's it. So there you go. That's it. Let's do a leaf real quick so I can show you the yellow on there. I'm going to do Granny Apple Green just because it's like my favorite green. So like the petals, I'm going to do the whole thing with the light. I'm leaving a little bit around the edge. Then I'm going to take the dark, and you can do either the bullet tip or you can do the broad tip, doesn't matter. I am putting dark where the artist already had the dark. Go back to my light and kind of swirl that in and get that to blend a little bit. And it takes just a minute. You can't judge it like right away. You have to give it a few seconds. And then I'm going to take my light daffodil. I'm going to use the bullet tip just because I don't want to get too much color. And I'm just going to put just that much yellow. That's it. Now, even though we didn't put yellow here, do you see how that pulled that back in? I do. My eye sees that. I hope you can see that. I hope that makes sense. Thank you, Mary. Let's see. Oh, I missed a question up here. I'm just scrolling back. That's right, Paula. It's only paper, and if you don't like it, you can restamp it and start again. Exactly. Exactly. So true. It's only paper. And, I'll admit there have been more than one image that went in the garbage over my years. So, don't think that 100% of what I've done is amazing. Well, that didn't sound right. It's not amazing. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm going to be quiet. Okay, let me show you this tip. Yeah, that didn't come out right. I'm really sorry. I did not mean to sound like that. I want to show you a fun tip here. Do you remember how we were talking just a little bit ago about mixing the colors? So say you use petal pink, you need a next darker shade, so you go to Calypso, and then maybe you bring in flamingo or poppy, right? It's okay. You don't have to stick with just the light and the dark of one family. You can add other colors. So I want to show you what I did on this dragonfly. And yes, this is new. This is the Dandy Garden Suite. And this is new in that new catalog that I was showing you. I can't show you the inside, but it's new in here and it's amazing. So if you need a demonstrator or need a catalog, visit me at pattystamps.com and use the request a catalog button and I would love to help you. So what I have here is saffron. And okay, remember we said in the beginning that for black, you have to use the Memento ink, but you can use colored ink. It's okay. It works. Look. How's that? Does that blow your mind? It's not smearing. So saffron, and then I'm going to use light Calypso. It's really easier for me to pull away from myself. So I'm turning the paper. Then I'm going to put a little bit of, this is actually light Cajun Craze. So look, I've got 3 different color families on there. Don't be afraid to try it. And look at the depth that gives. Then I'm just going to go back over with the light saffron and pull that color a little bit to blend it. Look at that. 3 different color families. Saffron, Calypso, and Cajun Craze on green. Right? How fun is that? So, oh, hey, and Trish Bennett is here too. Oh, okay, you changed it. Sorry. I see. So then I want to show you using Wink of Stella. So just want to get that moving a little bit, because you always want to try it on your scrap paper. Never squeeze it right onto your project. And then you can go right over it with Wink of Stella, because, you know, dragonfly wings, right? Wouldn't they be kind of glassy and pretty like that? Oh, can you see it? Does it show up? Oh, it's so pretty. And then we have the new Dragonfly Punch. It punches this large one, and it also punches a little one. So let's just punch it out. Ta-da! How amazing. Look how pretty that is. I love it. I think that is so... Oh, yes, you can see the sparkles. Yay! Yay! Oh, let's see. What color did you ink the dragonfly? This is garden green. So this is... I actually did this as a study with my Love to Stamp group yesterday. We were talking about using neutrals instead of like stamping on white. And so we were using crumb cake, gray granite, Sahara sand, smoky slate, doing something a little different, and stamped in garden green. And so I also stamped the garden green for the dragonfly. So this is another example of using several different color families like this to blend those colors. You do not have to stick to just the saffron or just the petal pink. This was 3 or 4 different color families similar to this. Let's see, I'm just checking for other comments. Oh, thank you. Oh, I'm glad you like it. Thank you, everybody. Yes, the Wink of Stella was the perfect touch. Thank you, Patty. Yes, and so yes, you can use other colors. Isn't that fun? All right, I have one more tip and then a few extra samples to show you. But let's see. I don't think you need to see me do these, but it was just the same idea. So I stamped with the Blackberry Bliss, and then I colored with, let's see, Dark Posy and Light Blackberry Bliss to do the purple, and then added the Wink of Stella. And then on this one, I colored with the Misty Moonlight and Seaside Spray using Misty Moonlight ink. So 3, let's put those side by side by side, 3 different ideas to show you that you can color in with the blends, the Stampin' Blends, and use the colored ink. All right. Do you like that? I think these are super fun. I love that tip that you can blend and color with all those different ink pads and different colors and put the Wink of Stella. This is just sort of a miscellaneous idea for you. I know this is retired Stampin' Up, but I wanted to show you, this was a die cut from a couple years ago. It cut out all these little houses and trees. So I die cut it in white, and I used my Stampin' Blends to color them in because they just are so smooth. Do you see how the color is just super smooth? You can't get that smoothness with an actual marker. So that's just, let's like, I don't know, I just pulled that out over here just to show you. Oh, and another bonus tip. If you emboss, this is an embossing folder, I think it's Country Floral. You can use your markers, your Stampin' Blend markers, to just color the raised images after it's embossed. I blogged this a long time ago. I love this. I think this is a really cool idea. Let's see. Just a couple examples here of your making sure that your images kind of have that rounded feeling. So here on the snowman, and I'm going to show you a different example in our next segment here, I put a little bit of Pool Party right at the edge of the snowballs, his body, and then I used that color lifter to just smooth along that line and blend that in a little bit. And I don't know, can you see this? So it makes him look a little bit round and not just like a flat white image. Here, I've used different shades of like the mango, the daffodil, and pumpkin pie to give kind of lighter areas here in the middle and then darker shading at the edge. And then to really make this owl look like he's behind there, after I colored him, I just put like a little dab right there and there and there of a darker color. And what a difference just that little bit of contrast makes. Okay, our last little tip here is outlining with Pool Party. I want to show you how that kind of works. So here on the owl, after I colored the owl, I took the light Pool Party. Do you see this little blue line that goes around that image? That's light Pool Party, ever so lightly. It's not like color, 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 color. It's just taking the marker. Hang on, Pool Party got buried. Yep, light Pool Party. It's just taking the marker and just like around that quick. So I'm going to show you that in a minute. But this is just an interesting way to help pop your image and not have it like stark against the white. It's just an idea. It's just something you might want to try. On this card, I actually made these in the same class with Tammy. She's on here. Loved this class. It was so fun. I colored around the owls after they were die cut so that I wouldn't have the stark white outline against the blue paper. So that's another idea that you can use the blends for. If you have a white outline on a punched image or a die cut and you want it to blend a little more, take your blend and just give it a little bit of color. So what I'm talking about here is, let's say we have this white polar bear, but we want him to stand out against the white cardstock. So we can take the light Pool Party and just do a really quick, I'm not going back and forth, I'm just doing a really quick line around the white. And then as this bleeds, it's going to lighten. So it's going to start looking more like this. But if you want to, you can take your color lifter and you can just do this around the edge And it takes a minute, but what it's doing is it's going to pull that blue kind of out. It's going to lighten it, and it's going to like bleed it in to the white. And then as that dries, it's not going to look so much like this big blue outline. It's going to soften, and it's going to look like this. That is one thing I have learned about Stampin' Blends, is that once in a while I color something and I'm like, oh, that's going in the garbage. But if you let it sit a minute, you just let it kind of blend and soften, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I really like it. It looks good. So don't judge too quickly on your coloring, okay? But do you see, it's already softened and it's already blending into the background. And now it looks like a white polar bear rather than like everything is white. Make sense? I hope so. So that was our last tip about outlining with light pool party. So wow, that was a lot of samples. I'm just going to go back to the beginning of my pile, go back into our succulents that we started with, and bring those back in, because if you missed the beginning, you might want to watch the replay to see that we were using this brand new Simply Succulent set. That's a tongue twister. Yes, Kay, it has dimension. That's a great way to say it. Yeah, so we were using this in the beginning, and I was showing you some tips and talking about all of the colors that happen in succulents. And I didn't even know till last night. I looked up succulents so that I could get sort of a feel for what colors to color with. Wow, so almost an hour. That went so fast. I feel like I talked for only 5 minutes. But thank you to everybody who hung with me. If you need more info, catalogs, you want to purchase the blends, any of the supplies we use today, pattystamps.com is my blog. I have been a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator for over 25 years. I love my job. I would love to help you if you need any help with Stampin' Up! Supplies, catalogs, anything. I would just love to help you. So thank you again for joining me. This replay will be up very soon, and I'll put it on YouTube and on my blog tomorrow. And let me know if you have questions. You can always comment later. Sometimes it's a little hard to see comments later, but don't hesitate to use the contact me button on my blog to get a hold of me. I'd love to help you. So thank you again, everybody. I love hanging out with you, and I appreciate you cheering me on. I'm glad that you enjoyed the tips and the ideas today. Thanks, Stacy. Thank you, Kay and Lynn, and Elaine. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Susan. You're welcome, everybody. Thank you so much. It was great hanging out with you. I will see you maybe next week. I might not be able to do next week. I will post and let you know. But I will try to do every Friday as much as I can. So talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.